This video examines the 1988 Supreme Court case of Hazelwood School District versus Kuhlmeier, which centered on student journalism and censorship. The case originated from a 1983 federal civil rights lawsuit. Students from Hazelwood East High School sued after their principal removed 2 pages of their school newspaper, The Spectrum, citing concerns over content on teen pregnancy and divorce. The Spectrum was produced in a journalism class. The principal removed 2 pages without notifying students, citing concerns over identifying pregnant students, sensitive content, and criticizing a student's father in the divorce article. This set up the conflict between student expression and school control. The students initially lost in the district court, but won in the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals. The school district then appealed the decision to the U.S. Supreme Court. The student journalists, the plaintiffs, argued that the newspaper was a public forum, and the principal's actions constituted censorship, violating their First Amendment rights. They claimed the articles were responsibly written and edited. The Hazelwood School District, the defendant, countered that the newspaper was part of the curriculum, not an open public forum. They asserted school officials had the authority to regulate content to meet educational standards, citing reasonable and pedagogically justified censorship. One removed story was the, quote, student pregnancy feature. The principal feared the story would tarnish the school's image and potentially violate student privacy, despite the use of pseudonyms, calling the content inappropriate. Another censored article was a column on contraception. The principal argued the column could be interpreted as encouraging sexual activity among minors, a concern he considered pedagogically legitimate. This raised the question of whether the piece was informational or advocacy. The third key article removed was Divorce, My Mom's New Life, a first-person narrative. The principal cited privacy and sensitivity concerns, worrying that the article exposed a student's family to public scrutiny and threatened the school's orderly environment. The Hazelwood School District presented its main arguments and witnesses to support the principal's authority and decision to censor the school-sponsored newspaper. Principal Kuhlmeier testified about his decision, claiming the articles were inappropriate and risked student privacy. He maintained that his action was pedagogically justified and within his authority to regulate school content. It is important to note that Principal William Kuhlmeier and the lead student journalist, Kathy Kuhlmeier, shared the same common last name but had no family relationship. Their opposing viewpoints define the core conflict of the lawsuit. Principal Kuhlmeier's testimony focused on his justification for removing the pages. He claimed the articles were inappropriate and risky regarding privacy, reinforcing his belief that the action was pedagogically justified. Principal William Kuhlmeier made the original censorship decision. The courts later determined his action was found to be pedagogically justified in regulating the content of the school-sponsored publication. Ms. Sandra Miller, the assistant principal for student services, testified for the Hazelwood School District. Her witness testimony supported the school's position regarding the need for content regulation and student privacy protection. The student journalists, represented by Kuhlmeier, presented their main arguments and witnesses, centering on the First Amendment and the nature of the newspaper as a public forum for expression. Kathy Kuhlmeier, the lead plaintiff, testified about the importance of the removed articles and supported the theory that the newspaper was a public forum. She felt the principal's censorship violated her First Amendment rights. Witness testimony played a key role in defining the newspaper's purpose. Student accounts emphasized the violation of free speech, while the principal argued his action was pedagogically justified, highlighting the conflict over appropriateness and privacy. Lori Kuhlmeier, managing editor of The Spectrum, described the editorial process and the moment the principal intervened. She recounted the principal's concern about vulgarity and sexual content becoming a legal flashpoint. Lori Kuhlmeier's testimony described the editorial process leading up to the intervention. Her statements highlighted the core of the censorship decision and the perceived violation of student journalistic freedom. Emily Chin, another student journalist, testified about the editorial process for The Spectrum. Her account supported the student's First Amendment claim by highlighting the nature and extent of the principal's censorship decision. Mike Baker, co-editor of The Spectrum, was a key student journalist plaintiff. His perspective on the editorial decision-making process contributed significantly to the student's First Amendment case against the district. Alan Reynolds, the English teacher and faculty advisor, submitted the newspaper to the principal. His testimony addressed the routine editorial process and his role in the publication. The student journalists argued the Spectrum was a public forum, and the censorship violated their First Amendment rights. They maintained the articles were responsibly written and the principal acted due to discomfort, not valid educational concerns. The students emphasized that articles were responsibly written and edited. They argued that students retain free speech rights even in school-sponsored activities, as the newspaper was intended as a public forum for expression. The initial trial court ruled in favor of the school district, holding that the principal's censorship was reasonable. This decision supported the school's right to control curricular content and initially rejected the students' First Amendment claim. Upon appeal, the Eighth Circuit Court reversed the district court's ruling. It found that the censorship violated the students' First Amendment rights because the spectrum was determined to be a public forum for student expression. Ultimately, the Supreme Court ruled 5-3 in favor of the Hazelwood School District. This ruling established the school-sponsored speech doctrine, deeming the principal's censorship pedagogically justified, as schools can regulate publications not considered public forums. The majority opinion confirmed that schools can regulate student publications that are not established as public forums. The court considered the censorship of the spectrum to be pedagogically justified. Justice Brennan wrote the dissenting opinion, arguing that the censorship was unconstitutional. The dissent viewed the newspaper as a public forum and held that the principal's actions violated the students' First Amendment rights. The Hazelwood ruling defined the school-sponsored speech doctrine, allowing schools to reasonably regulate non-public forum publications. This significantly narrowed student free speech rights in the context of school-sponsored activities. Thank you for watching this video on Hazelwood School District versus Kuhlmeier.